Hello and welcome to this edition of Games and Goals on RTB News. I'm Adam Reed in London and this is Reuters. Coming up on the programme. Sensational Sevilla. The Spaniards defeat Liverpool to win a third Europa League trophy in a row. Roy Hodgson names his provisional England squad for the Euros, but with one or two surprises. And up for the Cup, Manchester United and Crystal Palace get ready to contest the FA Cup final. We start though with Wednesday's Europa League final where Sevilla retained their trophy after a stunning second half comeback to beat Liverpool 3-1. That means they've now won the competition 5 times in the last decade. Jurgen Klopp's Premier League side were leading at half-time thanks to a sensational Daniel Sturridge goal, but just 17 seconds into the second half, Kevin Gameiro equalised. Liverpool then fell apart. Sevilla's captain Koke scored twice to seal Sevilla's third Europa League triumph in a row. But for Jurgen Klopp, it was a second major final defeat in 3 months.
We will carry on, I will carry on, and I will be in another final, and then you will tell me you lost your last 5 finals. I'm prepared, will be prepared for this moment. So I'm not sure that I have a good answer, but if you can believe, I will try with all I have to reach the next final, even when I know that you can lose it. So it's like it is. There are bigger problems in life, but in this moment, to be honest, it doesn't feel like this. It's really hard.
Y llegamos a quererla tanto.
Sevilla fans and the club love this competition and we love it so much, we want it so much that we found it and we're very happy about that. And it's our competition and we are the champions once again. But next season, the Champions League is an opportunity to grow.
Este año estábamos muy ilusionados.
Well, joining me this week to discuss the Europa League final and everything else in the world of football is former Everton, West Ham and England striker Tony Cottee. And alongside him is Reuters senior sports analyst Nigel Stevenson. Well, let's start with the Europa League final, Tony. I mean, Liverpool, it's a second major final defeat in 3 months for Jurgen Klopp. But where do they go from here without any European football next season?
Well, I think they've got a very good manager. He needs a pre-season to get his players in. He's going to have to spend in the transfer market. In my opinion, he needs 3 or 4 players to go into the first team. So there's going to be a lot of restructuring and reorganising at Anfield over the course of the summer. But I think Liverpool fans should be positive. They've got an excellent manager. I know it was really disappointing, the manner of the defeat in the second half. But things are moving in the right direction, but it will take time for Klopp.
And on that point, Nigel, where Tony mentioned that they've got the right manager, I mean, is he really going to be the talisman and going to be the figurehead for this club now?
Well, he's absolutely what they need. People believe in him. He's got the fans on his side. As Tony says, he needs a summer to sort out what he needs. If he didn't know before that match, he probably does now. You know, what has happened over the last 3 or 4 years at Liverpool is that they had a huge turnover of players and managers. They need to sort of bed it down a bit now. What they're really missing is, you know, certain Gerrard and a certain Carragher. They need some local input who are really going to lead it and be the heart and soul of that, because what was really missing from that defeat, I think, was a bit of backbone. The star players didn't show up. That's what he needs to get in, and then he can sort of decorate around the sides of it.
Well, one man that did have an influence on the game was Daniel Sturridge. I mean, we'll come on to England later on in the programme, but Daniel Sturridge, when he's on the pitch, he scores goals for Liverpool. It's just the same old question, can he be there that often?
You would hope so, and I'm feeling very smug about my England squad, which we'll come to later, after that goal. I don't know what was going on with Sturridge earlier in this season. Something clearly was, and I have no inroads into Liverpool. But if he's fit, which I think Klopp will get him to be fit, he will have a massive influence in the next season. So I think he's one to stay.
And Tony, let's just be clear, there was a winner from the game in Basel, and it was Sevilla. 3 times they've won on the bounce, the Europa League. I mean, they really are got cup pedigree, haven't they? Yeah,
fantastic. And it was interesting, like once they got knocked out of the Champions League, they won their last game, albeit there was nothing to play for, and they was almost gearing up, you know, to actually go and win this competition. So fair play to them, because there's a lot of clubs out there who don't take the competition serious, and Sevilla have done that. They've won it 3 years running, and they deserve their place in the Champions League next year.
Well, another team that we're going to be joining them in the Champions League next year is Leicester City after their Premier League title-winning party has continued, and the club have taken their trophy over to the home country of their owners. That's over in Thailand. The team were given a hero's welcome. Here they are in Bangkok, ahead of the tour laid on by the club's owners. The players were then whisked off to an event at the Thai capital, where once again captain Wes Morgan lifted the trophy, and there was even a special moment from the crowd for their beloved manager Claudio Ranieri.
Diddle-ding, diddle-dong, diddle-ding, diddle-dong, diddle-ding, diddle-dong, diddle-dong.
The chairman, vice president, and these lads, because made something unbelievable, because there were so many strong teams in front of us, but slowly we getting better, match game by game, and we start to believe we could possible to do something impossible.
Tony, you must be quite proud to see one of your former clubs still just enjoying their moment in the limelight. But now that they're champions, they're going to already start to look ahead to next season. How's their mentality going to change? I mean, they've got European football. They're going to have to add to their squad as well. Well,
I think this is almost the easy part at the moment. I know that sounds ridiculous to say, but they've won the Premier League. They're all out in Thailand celebrating. The owners must be absolutely delighted, as everyone in Thailand must be. But, you know, get all the celebrations out of the way, and then the hard work's really going to start, because they need to bolster the squad. They've got to keep hold of their top players, which is the main thing, and then they can look forward to the Champions League campaign. But it's going to be very, very difficult for them. We know how hard the Premier League is. Can they win it again next year? I very much doubt it, and they've obviously got the, you know, the extra liability of playing in the Champions League. So it's going to be a tough season for Leicester, I think, next year.
And does the hard work start now then, in terms of keeping hold of the key players? They've got Kante and Vardy, they're being courted by the people.
It's both sides. That's what they've got to do. If they can keep, I mean, it sounds like, but it's a long way to go before the end of the summer, they might keep on hold of their entire team and those big names. I reckon they fancy the Champions League with their team. Yep. The other thing is they've got to bring 4 or 5 new people in, because they can't do a whole season and the Champions League with that very small squad. So he's got to do both.
And that's the hard part, Nigel, as well.
Squad rotation.
I mean, these fantastic scenes we saw in Leicester, but, you know, to bring in those 4 or 5, you don't want to bring players in that are going to upset the players that are already there. If you take the place of a good club player and who gets on really well with his teammates, and then the other players get the hump because the player's playing who's not as good as the one who's done it. So it's really complicated situation for Ranieri. He's got to get the balance right.
And on that balance, I mean, when over a course of a summer, you've played in teams where there's been an influx of players over the summer. What's that like for a settled squad, a successful squad, and then suddenly you start to see new faces coming in? Do they bed in easy, or is there a momentary honeymoon period?
Well, football's so cosmopolitan there, isn't it? I think in the old days you just had the British players coming in, everyone had the same mentality, but now where you're getting players from all around the world, you know, it can be difficult for the player. But the one thing you would want to see as a Leicester player, you would want to see that player come in, give the same 100% effort that all the Leicester players have done, embrace the team spirit and the team ethic. And if they do that, I think they'll be accepted no matter where they're from. But you have to earn the right to be a part of that team. You know, they are the champions. They're playing in the Champions League. If you want to be in that Leicester first team, you've got to go into that club and prove that you've got every right to be there.
It's going to be a very interesting summer at the King Power. Well, stay with us here on Games and Goals. There's plenty still to come as we take a sneak peek into Roy Hodgson's England squad for Euro 2016. Well, welcome back. It's now just 3 weeks until Euro 2016 kicks off, and Roy Hodgson has announced his provisional 26-man England squad, with a big surprise, the inclusion of teenager Marcus Rashford of Manchester United. Well, here's a look at the squad in full. We can have a look at the goalkeepers and defenders first. Joe Hart is expected to be the #1. Tom Heaton of Burnley is also included, with Fraser Forster. Just 7 specialist defenders, including Everton's John Stones. Now here in midfield, Leicester's Danny Drinkwater makes the provisional cut, as does relegated Newcastle United winger Andros Townsend. Jack Wilshere's returned to the squad, despite only making 1 start this season. And there's 5 strikers to choose from at the moment, including Premier League Golden Boot winner Harry Kane and title winner Jamie Vardy. The uncapped 18-year-old Rashford gets a call-up as he tries to impress before Hodgson names his final 23.
He's one of the contenders. That's of course the competition for him is quite strong. He'll understand that as well. But I think he deserves to be selected, certainly in this larger squad. And it will be very interesting to see what he can do. Albeit we might only have a chance to see that for 1 week before I have to name the final 23 with the cup final. But I'm pleased that someone who's had such an outstanding end to the season, a young player, a player who I think has obviously got a future if he can continue to develop as he's developed so far. It's great to be able to include him, and then there's no reason, if he does exceptionally well, why he couldn't knock someone off their perch. But I must make it clear that will be harder than some people would expect, because people who've played over the last 2 years and have done a very good job for us in helping us to qualify, they're not going to be easy to knock off their perch.
Well, let's discuss that squad in a little bit more detail. Tony, if I can start with you. Marcus Rashford's name jumps off the page when you look at even at the squad as a whole, let alone strikers. But at the moment, Roy's got 5 strikers in. If Rashford goes, that means he's got 5 strikers. I mean, there's questions to be asked. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm delighted for Rashford. You know, I've seen him quite a few times, seen him live playing against West Ham a couple of times, and he's done really, really well. He's a raw talent. You know, he deserves the chance to be in that 26. Whether he will make the final cut, I don't know. But what he does do, there's 5 forwards. We saw the 5 forwards there. He's a little bit different to the other 4 forwards. So, you know, in my opinion, you're better off taking 5 forwards to the tournament. That's what I'd like to see Roy do.
So 5 in the squad at the moment, Nigel. But there were some names that were left off. I mean, Jermaine Defoe, he's got 15 Premier League goals this season. He scored something like 14 more than any other Sunderland player in total. He's not in the squad. Theo Walcott seems to have lost his place. I mean, should they feel hard done by?
I don't think Theo Walcott should be hard done by. He's been extremely fortunate to be in there in the first place. He's not good enough, and that's his final word on that. I think Defoe can feel hard done by. He's done extremely well, but you've got to pick 5. He has effectively kept Sunderland up, but are you looking to the future? Roy hasn't really gone to him previously, and as we were saying, he is a person who goes to his go-to people. I think it was clutching at straws perhaps for him to go. Where you drop, though, maybe, and I'm umming and ahhing about this one, do you take Rashford? I'm very worried about the Theo Walcott effect, in that he was taken as an 18-year-old, didn't play. Did it do him any good or any harm? I'm not sure. Maybe you should just leave him at home this time. There are plenty of people to be dropped from the midfield who aren't fit or aren't quite good enough. So maybe there's an argument for taking him. So I've now completely confused myself. So I'm glad he's the manager and not me.
Well, I'm glad that, we'll pick up on that, because 3 weeks before England's first game, there's 3 warm-up games, obviously plenty of training sessions, but we've given you guys the opportunity to have a little go at being Roy Hodgson for that game against Russia. Nigel, we'll start with you.
Okay.
We'll have a look at your team. You picked an 11.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of...
This is 11 that I would like to see, but I don't think necessarily he will go with. So we need that caveat.
You can talk us through it.
Because I think that he will play Rooney come hell or high water, and I think Sturridge is the person who will miss out, but I think that really complicates things. Back 4, I think they're all interchangeable. Certainly Cahill, Smalling will start all the time. Rose, Klein, Walker, bring them in whenever you like, that's all fine. Dyer, I think, anchors it properly. Townsend, I actually have him on the right, because I think he's giving you that width, gives a bit more protection to the back as well, and he has been playing well. You can't start without Kane. I think Rooney will play, not Sturridge, and I think what I would do if I was Roy Hodgson is that you then bring Vardy on with the pace when Kane gets a bit tired, take Rooney off, because but I mentioned it earlier in the show, Sturridge with that goal proves that he is a goal scorer. Put him up front with Kane, because Kane's used to operating on his own. You've then got 2 independent forwards, not somebody who's playing one behind the other, and they will cause trouble all day long. Rooney's not going to do that, and frankly I think there are better midfielders than Rooney, and therefore he doesn't get on the pitch. So that's my starting 11. I don't think that's what will happen when that first game starts.
I won't push you to try and pick who gets the captain's armband if Rooney's not playing, though. But Tony's had another go at it as well, and slightly different variations.
Yeah, I went for the 4-2-3-1 because that's what Roy has been playing. I put John Stones in. Personally, I'd like to see him play, but I think Cahill will play instead of him. I've got Jack Wilshere in there, but I don't know about Jack's fitness. I think if Jack is fit, he's probably one of our best players, so that's why I put him in there, but I doubt he will play. So Stones or Wilshere probably won't play. I think and Townsend maybe won't play, but I think Dele Alli will be in the team. Harry Kane certainly, and I think he will find a place for Wayne Rooney. I put him just left of the three there. But, you know, I think he will play the 4-2-3-1. But, you know, I agree with Nigel. I'd like to see two forwards. Always think you should have two forwards on the pitch. But we've got Vardy to come on to cause havoc.
If you put Rooney on, and he doesn't play in a position that he's used to. My feeling is that he actually just disappears, and he has to be.
It's a big tournament for Wayne, isn't it? Because we're all, you know, in England here, we're all saying he hasn't performed in the tournaments for what 10, 12 years now. So it's a big tournament for Wayne, and he needs, as captain, he needs to lead by example.
Suddenly, a bit more excited about being an England
fan
going into it.
There's
definitely goals in there.
We've got some good young players and some goals in the team.
Definitely, yeah. Well, it's not only Roy Hodgson who's made some interesting decisions. The same could be said for Spain boss Vicente Del Bosque. Some notable Premier League names have been left out of Spain's Euro squad. Arsenal's Santi Cazorla, who's only recently returned from injury, wasn't selected, nor was Chelsea's Diego Costa and Manchester United's Juan Mata. Fernando Torres may have a Champions League final to look forward to, but he also misses out on the national side. But the Spanish head coach insists he has the strength in depth to complete a hat-trick of European wins.
I have strength in depth with the squad until the end of the tournament at the moment. It's my sole interest. My concern and responsibility is to ensure the team are there until the end of the European Cup. From that, you know what my intentions are.
Well, Nigel, Spain were equally as disappointing as England at the World Cup, and they've left out some big names as a result of that. I mean, is this a case of evolution or revolution?
Well, it is evolution. I'm, to be perfectly honest, quite surprised they haven't evolved into a new manager as well, but enough said on that. Mata was never an integral part, and nor was Costa. Costa, I think he was possibly even pressurised into taking because he changed his nationality. But I'm not surprised by that. I would have taken a risk on Torres. He has really just refound his scoring touch, and they haven't got many forwards because they like to pass the ball into the net with 1,500 passes beforehand. So they've never really relied on a big centre forward, but he used to come on and cause a bit of trouble later on. I think that's where he would have been useful. So Spain will be there or thereabouts. I don't think they're going to win it and not retain it.
So that's the holders, and Tony, the hosts. France, they've got great pedigree at hosting tournaments. France World Cup '98, and they won the Euros back in the '80s as well. I mean, their squad's looking pretty impressive as well, isn't it?
Got a good squad, haven't they? Yeah, I think they're certainly up there with the favourites, and as the host nation, you would expect them to have a really good tournament. You just get worried with the French, though, a bit like the Dutch. So you're never quite sure how settled the squad's going to be come the Euros. But if they're focused, if they've got their mind on it, they're going to take a lot of beating the French.
It's going to be very, very exciting indeed.
Yep.
Just 3 weeks to go until the start of the European Championships. Now, plenty still to come on Games and Goals as we see how Crystal Palace are preparing for an FA Cup final appearance that's been 26 years in the making. Now, Crystal Palace and Manchester United meet at Wembley this weekend in the FA Cup final, 26 years after they also featured in one of the most memorable games in the competition's history. Louis van Gaal is looking for a first trophy as Manchester United manager, while Palace are looking for a first major trophy ever.
South London swagger is part of the Crystal Palace way, and capping a season with an FA Cup triumph is in the sights of Balassi Cabaye and co. Manager Alan Pardew has challenged his Eagles to soar above Manchester United at Wembley and secure a first major trophy for the club he also served as a player.
We can do what all those other clubs didn't do, and for that it will make this club different going forward. It will attract better players, it will attract more fans, and we can become a bigger club overnight.
Saturday's FA Cup final will be a new experience for most of the Palace squad, and the message from even the most senior amongst them is to take the opportunity, because you never know when you might get another chance.
My memories was a lot of the players were telling me, "Oh, Emmanuel, you were young. You were young. Don't worry, you will have a chance to win a lot of trophies." Till today, I won only one. So if they think they have a chance, because this kind of opportunity doesn't come that often, so if they have a chance, you gotta do everything to grab it and take it.
Midway through the season, Palace were actually without a Premier League win for 14 league games, which actually coincided with their run to the FA Cup final at Wembley. It was a run of form that no one at the club could quite put their finger on, but now they're out of that experience, they believe it's made them stronger.
it's funny. It's really, really hard to explain, but you know, we're thankful that we were able to get through some tough games in that cup competition, and we've had a fantastic cup run, and you know, it can be capped off and become a magnificent season for the football club.
And the club's first FA Cup final appearance in 26 years means a few extra headaches for the players, who suddenly have become particularly popular amongst friends and family looking for tickets.
It's been a bit of a nightmare, to be fair, but now all the family's sorted now, and it takes time, but finally got there.
You get a big spreadsheet out and start working it out of who gives you...
You get people coming out the woodwork that you haven't spoke to for ages, but then again, that's part and parcel of the FA Cup final.
Talk of the famous 1990 final between the same sides has inevitably been mentioned in the build-up, but both are just focusing on writing new Wembley history. No side has won the FA Cup more times than Manchester United, so perhaps it's rather surprising they're looking for a first success in the competition since 2004. Palace, meanwhile, are relishing their status as the underdogs in a game that's being billed as having huge ramifications already for next season.
Always a huge occasion, the FA Cup final, Tony. You've played in a final. I mean, what is it like in the run-up to an FA Cup final week, and how do you keep that feeling of normality?
Well, I think they would have had a busy week. Obviously, the last Premier League game was on the Sunday and the FA Cup final coming up on the Saturday, so they probably would have had maybe a day off, a couple of days off, and then you go back into training, keep ticking over, waiting for the final. A lot of press, media interviews to do, and obviously a huge publicity surrounding the game. So you have to try and keep focused and remember what you're actually going to be doing on the Saturday. But it's exciting stuff, and as a player, particularly most of the Palace players, because they won't have played in a major final, they'll be looking forward to it.
I definitely got a sense of the excitement that's going on at Palace, and they're a club that on the edge of something, as Alan Pardew mentioned, Nigel. But I mean, he mentioned that it could change the club overnight. I mean, what could it do for a club like Palace to win a trophy?
Well, it would make them all very much more attractive. As he said, I don't think they are going to win. I think getting to the final was enough for them, because it means that their season wasn't a failure, which largely it was, that they promised so much and then it all fell apart. I really hope that he can get them to do what they are capable of doing, because they are so exciting to watch. Watching Bolasie just murder people is just fantastic. I really enjoy that. But we haven't seen much of that. I mean, he's been injured. But if they can play to their potential, that will then give them a really big boost, and then they'll hit the ground running next season. If they lose, as I suspect they will, then it's back to square one, and they can have I think they'll have a tough season, like virtually everybody next season. I think if they don't win it, it's going to be tough for them.
I mean, they said that they were relishing that tag of underdogs, but yeah. Who's the pressure more on in this respect? Because Van Gaal, people question of his job even if he wins the trophy.
Pressure on both teams, different pressure though, isn't it? Manchester United really need to win. I think if Van Gaal wins the FA Cup, he can point and say, well, look, I've won a trophy for you, and qualify for the Europa League. Palace, exactly, if they can win, go into the Europa League, that helps them. As a West Ham fan, I'm hoping Manchester United win, because that will get West Ham in through the back door into the Europa League. But big game for both clubs.
Nigel, Tony, thank you very much for your input this week. Now, just time to bring you some of the other sports stories making headlines around the world. And earlier this week, Max Verstappen became the youngest winner in Formula One history at the weekend as he won the Spanish Grand Prix. It was a disastrous afternoon, though, for the Mercedes team as Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton took each other out. Ferrari took the other podium spots behind Verstappen, with Kimi Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel coming in second and third, respectively. Now, golf's unofficial fifth major was won by Jason Day at the Players' Championship, as he took home nearly $2 million with a win. The world number one finished an impressive 4 strokes ahead of the rest in Florida, meaning he's now won an incredible 7 of his last 17 events. Staying with golf, and Tiger Woods has revealed that he still thinks he can pass Jack Nicklaus as the most successful golfer ever, despite not having won a major since 2008. However, the 40-year-old still has no idea when he'll return to competitive action, having had his 3rd operation on his back last year. Now, with less than 3 months to go until the start of the Olympics, Brazil's sports minister has told the International Olympic Committee that Rio will be ready. Leonardo Picciani went on to assure organisers they are also ready to cope with the threat of the Zika virus. Well, that's just about it for this week's show, but do join us next time as we look ahead to the Champions League final, which once again is an all-Madrid affair. Well, that's it for this edition of Games and Goals. Tony and Nigel, many thanks for being part of it and joining me on the show. I'm Adam Reed, signing off from the Reuters studio here in London. Goodbye for now.